Good evening. You're watching the main news on HKIBC. I'm Wynna Wong. Here's a look at tonight's top stories. Rishi Sunak becomes Britain's third prime minister in 3 months. The government amends the law to grant the health secretary the power to invalidate vaccine exemption certificates. And media tycoon Jimmy Lai is found guilty of 2 counts of fraud. Rishi Sunak has been officially sworn in as Britain's Prime Minister. He will be closely watched on how he will tackle soaring living costs and deal with a tattered government, which his predecessors left behind. A new king and his new prime minister. This was the scene in London today as Rishi Sunak met Charles shortly after Liz Truss met the monarch to tender her resignation. Speaking for the first time as leader, Sunak promised to fix the problems she'd left behind.
She was not wrong to want to improve growth in this country, but some mistakes were made. And I have been elected as leader of my party and your Prime Minister, in part, to fix them. And that work begins immediately. I will place economic stability and confidence at the heart of this government's agenda. This will mean difficult decisions to come.
Before she left Downing Street, Truss was defiant as she called on the next leader to be bold.
In just a short period, this government has acted urgently and decisively. We simply cannot afford to be a low-growth country where the government takes up an increasing share of our national wealth, and where there are huge divides between different parts of our country.
Sunak, a former chancellor, picks up the reins at an extremely tumultuous time for the nation. A chaotic market, a plunging currency, political divide, and a third prime minister in less than 2 months. Many are also questioning his ability to understand the difficulties of ordinary people as he tries to fix the economy. It's been reported Sunak is a multimillionaire. His wealthy wife, Akshata Murthy, was previously embroiled in a scandal. When it was found, she may have avoided tens of millions of pounds in taxes by claiming non-domicile status in the UK. Sunak, the first prime minister of color, is also, at 42, the youngest in 200 years. The government has amended the law to grant the health secretary power to nullify vaccination exemption certificates starting tomorrow. This came after the High Court stopped the administration from invalidating over 20,000 certificates. Mizi Mak reports.
In a blow to the government, the High Court last Friday reversed the decision to invalidate over 20,000 COVID vaccination exemption certificates, saying the health secretary has no power to do so. The certificates were issued by 7 doctors, allegedly without conducting a medical consultation. Instead of appealing against the court's decision, the government has decided to amend vaccine pass regulations to give the health secretary the power that he lacked. Under the amendment, the health secretary can invalidate exemption certificates if there are reasons to believe a licensed doctor has not conducted a clinical assessment. Certificates can also be nullified on the grounds of public interest. The amendment was gazetted today and will be implemented tomorrow. Lawmakers will vet the legislation after it has taken effect. The government issued a statement saying in making the decision, it had considered the urgency of anti-epidemic work, the time needed for an appeal, and the expiration dates of the involved certificates. Kwok Chek-kin, who earlier this month issued a legal challenge to the government decision to invalidate 20,000 certificates, criticized the move to amend the rules, saying it went against the spirit of the rule of law and violated human rights. Mizi Mak, HKIBC.
COVID infections have dropped for the 3rd straight day. Of the 5,221 patients today, 454 had recently returned from overseas. 10 more people with the virus have died. Meanwhile, the Education Bureau has pushed back a triple jab vaccine mandate. It had previously said secondary schools can only continue full-day lessons next month if 90% of students have received 3 shots. Primary schools can resume full-day classes from December if 70% of students are double jabbed. Microbiologist Wynna Wong has suggested that the chlorine level in reservoirs be increased to kill the bacteria that causes melioidosis, a potentially deadly disease. The number of cases in Hong Kong this year has jumped to 34, with at least 7 deaths related to the disease. Janice Low reports.
Hong Kong University microbiologist Wynna Wong inspected 2 reservoirs near Sham Shui Po district this morning. He said the residual chlorine level in both reservoirs meet World Health Organization requirements to kill the bacteria that causes melioidosis.
隨住時間咧，佢嗰個含量咧，個氯含量會降低嘅。
But as the residual chlorine level decreases when the water reaches homes, Yun suggested that it be raised from 1 part per million to 1.2 parts per million. As an added precaution, he proposed installing ultraviolet light at the reservoirs to ensure that the bacteria will be wiped out. Hong Kong has had an average of 10 melioidosis infections in recent years, but the number jumped this year. So far, 34 cases have been recorded, 23 of them in Sham Shui Po. There were 7 melioidosis-linked deaths. Soil taken from a construction site in the district was found with melioidosis DNA. The disease is caused by a bacterium that is common in soil and muddy water. Yun, along with Albert L. from the Center for Health Protection, visited Shek Kip Mei Service Reservoir, where they took samples from a manhole and its cover, as well as the surrounding soil. They then inspected the Butterfly Valley Freshwater Primary Service Reservoir. Although melioidosis has a high mortality rate, Yun assured the public that it will not spread from human to human. He urged people to leave the tap running for 1 minute in the morning before using the water and to boil food. Janice Low, HKIBC.
Media tycoon Jimmy Lai has been convicted of 2 counts of fraud for breaching a land lease. Security was tight when a prison van believed to be carrying Lai arrived at the district court this morning. The head of the now defunct Apple Daily was charged along with Wong Wai Kung, the administrative director of Next Digital, the newspaper's parent company. Their office building in the Chung Kwan O Industrial Estate was limited to publishing and printing, but the pair were accused of subletting part of the premises to a Lai-controlled firm and not telling the landlord. Lai was found guilty of 2 counts of fraud, while Wong was convicted on 1. Mitigation and sentencing will take place next month. Lai will stay behind bars while Wong remains on bail. Overseas now, Israeli troops have raided the city of Nablus in the occupied West Bank, killing at least 6 Palestinians and wounding more than 20. The town suffered heavy damage from the assault, during which Israeli soldiers surrounded a house and opened fire. Palestinian medics accused the Israelis of stopping them from reaching the wounded. Israel said it was targeting a group known as the Lion's Den. The raid was Israel's latest in a series that has claimed more than 135 Palestinian lives this year. The Palestinian Authority condemned the military activity as a war crime. Myanmar's military government has been denounced for an airstrike that killed more than 60 people and injured 100 during a concert organized by an ethnic minority group in the north of the country.
It's horrifying that, civilians would be going to something that is what they would be thinking a celebration and then have to face the horror of this. How many more do we need to see killed before they will act to hold this military accountable? Because it's very evident that war crimes are happening, that crimes against humanity are happening, that people are being blown up just for celebrating their own identity.
On Sunday, military aircraft dropped 4 bombs on the town of Pikant, about 1,000 kilometers north of Myanmar's biggest city, Yangon. The victims were celebrating the 62nd anniversary of the Kachin Independence Organization. Myanmar has been rocked by political turmoil since the military seized power in February last year. Shares of HSBC in Hong Kong shed 5% today, despite posting better-than-expected third-quarter earnings. The bank's chief executive credited a 3-year restructuring exercise for bringing down costs.
I'm pleased with our third-quarter performance. All regions performed well, with particularly good performances in the UK, the Middle East and Southeast Asia. We delivered a double-digit return on tangible equity for the 9-month period, excluding significant items. And we remain on track to achieve our financial targets for 2022 and 2023.
Pre-tax profits for Europe's largest lender dropped by 42% to $3.2 billion in the 3 months to September. Meanwhile, Chief Financial Officer Ewan Stevenson will step down at the end of the year, despite only joining in 2019. In a media call, the 56-year-old denied having disagreements with the board on strategy and targets, saying it was a natural point for him to leave. Chief Executive John Lee insists that the Hong Kong stock market is operating smoothly, but refused to be drawn into speculation after yesterday's record losses. Trading was volatile today, with the Hang Seng Index ending flat. Raymond Young reports.
One day following the worst sell-off in 14 years, there was some respite for investors in Hong Kong. After briefly falling below the 15,000 mark for the first time since 2009, the Hang Seng Index headed north in a wild swing before ending the day nearly unchanged. Turnover stood at $136 billion as bargain hunters sprang into action. There was also a rebound in tech shares, with the Hang Seng Tech Index gaining nearly 3%. Heavyweights JD.com jumped 5%, Meituan rebounded by 2.4%, while Alibaba gained 3.2%. When asked if he agreed with reports that the rout yesterday was linked to the leadership reshuffle in Beijing, Chief Executive John Lee gave a fake answer.
I think everybody knows that the global economic situation is in uncertainty, and there are very many factors affecting the outlook for economies around the world. Yes, volatility will be high, but our long-tested systems and response system are in operation all the time. Our monitoring of the situation indicates that market activities have continued to go on in an orderly and smooth manner.
Most regional indices ended in the red, with Japan's Nikkei and Australia's ASX bucking the trend. Raymond Yang, HKIBC.
A look at the markets now. The Hang Seng Index closed down 15 points. In top 10 active stocks, Tencent was up 20 cents, Meituan up $2.90. AIA was down $1.60, exchanges down $4.20. In foreign exchange rates, the euro is at 7.74, British pound 8.88. In UK markets, the FTSE is down 56 points. Around 700 bars and restaurants will take part in the annual Hong Kong Wine and Dine Festival next month. A total of 50,000 free electronic vouchers will be handed to food and wine connoisseurs to enjoy what the organizers described as a taste around the town. Joanna Ho reports.
Food and wine lovers can enjoy a cocktail or an exclusive meal if they get an electronic coupon from the Hong Kong Tourism Board next month. There will be 50,000 coupons to promote the annual Wine and Dine Festival. They can be obtained from the Tourism Board's Discover Hong Kong digital platform at 10 a.m. on the 3rd and 17th of November on a first-come, first-served basis. Winners can savor a creative cocktail with Hong Kong flavors for free at one of 210 eateries and bars, or enjoy a free exclusive food set at one of 160 restaurants located in 8 harbourfront districts and food hubs. Non-coupon holders can also have a taste at discount prices of $100 for a cocktail and $150 for the meal. People can only get one coupon each time, but they can obtain a new one after using the previous one. Some of the coupons have been reserved for participants in the Global Financial Leaders Investment Summit and the Hong Kong Sevens. The catering trade has welcomed the festival. Bar and Club Association Chairman Chin Chen Weng expects business for bars to rise by 20 to 30%. He praised the creativity of this year's event and believed many Hong Kongers will be eager to join. Asked why the festival couldn't be held at one large single venue again, the board said that's because of COVID risks and time constraints. Joanna Ho, HKIBC.
And finally, the weather. Generally fine throughout the day, with temperatures ranging between 23 and 27 degrees. The pleasant weather will continue throughout the week. Now let's take a look at the weather around the world. And that's our main news for Tuesday night. Join us for more news at 11. I'm Wynna Wong. Good night.